And so all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha, Kwadash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of the great millstone where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And shalom to the other sincere followers of this truth. Alright, today's video is going to be another reading in Deuteronomy 28. Okay, but this reading is going to be from the NLT. But before I get started, all right, I want to remind you or rehash this because it is important to know that the King James is the closest to the Hebrew. Okay, so keyword being closest. Now the King James Bible can go off. All right, if you don't have a foundation, you will be taken by something else that was planted in the scriptures. For instance, the name Jesus. All right, or you might be taken by things that were removed from the scriptures. And what I mean by that is you'll be taken by the thing being removed. You won't get the entire truth. Okay. That example is the Apocrypha. The Apocryphal books were once a part of the scriptures and they were removed. Okay. So something else that is important because of the blue letter, or not the blue letter, but the King James can go off. All right, this translation that I'm going to read today, the NLT, the New Living Translation, this can also go off. All right, like I said, the King James is the closest. So this one, you have to be careful. You have to have your foundation, okay? And then the next reading, in the Good News translation can also go off. The reason for having these other translations, knowing that they can go off, is because sometimes, all right, they will speak to what the scripture is saying a little bit more clearly than the King James. Okay, they will be able to put forth the thought that is coming through. Okay, the King James, they'll be able to speak to that in English, a little bit more clear English. Okay, but with that being said, this is also important. And you find this warning or this notification, okay, in the Apocrypha, okay, in the prologue of the book of Ecclesiasticus, otherwise known as the book of Sirach. All right. And the prologue is longer than the excerpt that I'm about to read from here, but this is the point that I'm trying to make. So you can go back and read this. Okay, it's not going to change anything that I'm about to read. All right, and what I am about to read doesn't change anything else in the prologue. It's just that I'm going to a certain section just to get right to the point. All right, I'm going to read this prologue in the Apocrypha, okay, the King James Version Apocrypha, and I'm going to read it in the Good News translation, okay, to put things a little bit more clearly, or to show another translation, okay. So this is a prologue of Ecclesiasticus. All right, this is probably about the middle of the prologue. All right, it says, "Wherefore, let me entreat you to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words, which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself, and the prophets, and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. All right. So let me read that again in the Good News Translation, just in case, for those out there that need to hear it. All right. It says a little bit more clearly. Okay. I'm going to read the same, everything I just read right there, I'm going to read here. Okay. It's in the Good News Translation. All right. In the Good News, it goes by the name Sirach, the book of Sirach, right? In the Apocrypha, the King James Version, it goes by Ecclesiasticus, all right? So, it reads, "Let me urge you, then, to read this book carefully and with an open mind, and please be patient in those places where, in spite of all my diligent efforts, I may not have translated some phrases very well. What was originally written in Hebrew does not always have exactly the same sense when it is translated into another language. That is true not only of this book, but even of the law itself, the prophets, and the other books. The translations differ quite a bit from the original. So you have to be careful when going into these other translations. You have to be careful when someone is reading from these other translations that your mind doesn't go astray. All right, it's up to you to go and study. All right, you won't be able to blame anything on anyone else when the time comes. All right, it is up to you to go search these things out, read, study, listen, and then repeat that cycle until the day of the Lord comes. All right, the main mission of us Israelite men, all right, is to hold the highest office for a man, an Israelite man on this earth, which is not the head of a company. It is not the MVP of the NBA, NFL, or any other thing. All right. Okay. It's not to be the first black man in hockey. All right. It's not to be Pele. Okay. The highest office of an Israelite man is, and those were examples for so-called blacks, all right? But we look like, Israelite men look like all other nations on this earth. They look like Chinese, they look like Japanese, which is Moab and Ammon, all right? They look like Edomites, which is the so-called white man, all right? They look like Arabs, which are Ishmaelites, all right, or so-called Arabs, all right, which are Ishmaelites. Okay, we look like all other peoples, but the point is, the highest office for an Israelite man is not anything worldly. All right, it's not the most money. It's not the second most money in the world. It's not any of that. It is to be out on these corners preaching and teaching the word. All right, that is the main. That is the highest office of an Israelite man. Okay, that's what we strive for. All right, until the Lord comes. Okay, so uh, where was I going with that? So yeah, you won't uh, be able to um, uh, blame anyone for uh, the knowledge that you have, because you are required to read, study, um, learn, and repeat until you are able to go teach, all the way until the day of the Lord. All right. To the best of your ability, you are to follow these laws. Okay. To the best of your ability. Okay, because no one can be perfect. There's only one that was perfect, all right, and that was Yahweh Shai, which is whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus. And his Father, the Almighty, that is the actual and real name of whom the world ignorantly calls God, all right? So, with that being said, let's go ahead and start. All right, so I want to start with this before I go in. This is why we're going into Deuteronomy 28. Okay? So, we fell from calling on the real names of our power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which Ba Hashem is in the name. Okay? So, we learned and went after Islam, Christianity, all right, Black Power, Egyptology, and all sorts of madness. All right. If you are an Israelite man that grew up looking like um, an Indian or wherever you are, you went after those gods, those idols. Okay. So that's the other madness I'm talking about. We went after everything except for what we were supposed to be going after. All right. So we were given into the hands of our enemies. All right. The ones that we went after, we were just given into the hands of them. Okay. Which are still ruling over us right now. All right. So Deuteronomy, uh what Deuteronomy 28 does, all right? It helps understand whom the true Israelites are, all right? And that's why we're going to read Deuteronomy 28 in this video, and Lord willing in the next, in a different translation. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. This is Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, in the NLT. All right, so it reads, the Lord said to Moses, or excuse me, I'm in the wrong spot. All right, hold on. All right, here it is. All right, the heading of Deuteronomy 28 in the NLT says blessings for obedience. All right, it reads, if you fully obey the Lord your God, all right, speaking of Yahweh, okay, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, all right, and carefully keep all his commands that I am giving you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations of the world. You will experience all these blessings if you obey the Lord your God. All right. Your towns and your fields will be blessed. Your children and your crops will be blessed. The offspring of your herds and flocks will be blessed. Your fruit baskets and breadboards will be blessed. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you will be blessed. All right. Okay. Verse 7. It says, the Lord will conquer your enemies when they attack you. They will attack you from one direction, but they will scatter from you in seven. The Lord will guarantee a blessing on everything you do and will fill your storehouses with grain. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. If you obey the commands of the Lord your God, and walk in his ways, the Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he swore he would do. Then all the nations of the world will see that you are a people claimed by the Lord, and they will stand in awe of you. The Lord will give you prosperity in the land he swore to your ancestors to give you, blessing you with many children, numerous livestock, and abundant crops. The Lord will send rain at the proper time of his rich treasury in the heavens and will bless all the work you do. You will lend to many nations, but you will never need to borrow from them. If you listen to these commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today, and if you carefully obey them, the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you will always be on top and never at the bottom. You must not turn away from any of the commands I am giving you today, nor follow after other gods and worship them. All right? Now, here's where we get in to the opposite of that. All right? The heading above verse 15 says, curses for disobedience. Man. All right? It reads, but if you refuse to listen to the Lord your God and do not obey all the commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come and overwhelm you. Your towns and your fields will be cursed. Your fruit baskets and breadboards will be cursed. Your children and your crops will be cursed. The offspring of your herds and flocks will be cursed. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you will be cursed. Verse 20 of Deuteronomy chapter 28 in the NLT. All right. The Lord himself will send on you curses, confusion, and frustration in everything you do, until at last you are completely destroyed for doing evil and abandoning me. The Lord will afflict you with disease until none of you are left in the land you are about to enter and occupy. The Lord will strike you with wasting diseases, fever, and inflammation, with scorching heat and drought, and with blight and mildew. These disasters will pursue you until you die. The skies above will be as unyielding as bronze, and the earth beneath will be as hard as iron. The Lord will change the rain that falls on your land into powder, and dust will pour down from the sky until you are destroyed. The Lord will cause you to be defeated by your enemies. You will attack your enemies from one direction, but you will scatter from them in 7. You will be an object of horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. Your corpses will be food for all the scavenging birds and wild animals, and none will be there to chase them away. The Lord will afflict you with the boils of Egypt, and with tumors, scurvy, and the itch from which you cannot be cured. The Lord will strike you with madness, blindness, and panic. You will grope around in broad daylight like a blind person groping in the darkness, but you will not find your way. You will be oppressed and robbed continually, and no one will come to save you. You will be engaged to a woman, but another man will sleep with her. You will build a house, but someone else will live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but you will never enjoy its fruit. Your ox will be butchered before your eyes, but you will not eat a single bite of the meat. Your donkey will be taken from you, never to be returned. Your sheep and goats will be given to your enemies, and no one will be there to help you. You will watch as your sons and daughters are taken away as slaves. Your heart will break for them, but you won't be able to help them. A foreign nation you have never heard about will eat the crops you worked on, or excuse me, let me start all over. This is verse 33 of Deuteronomy chapter 28 in the NLT. All right. A foreign nation you have never heard about will eat the crops you worked so hard to grow. You will suffer under constant oppression and harsh treatment. You will go mad because of all the tragedy you see around you. The Lord will cover your knees and legs with incurable boils. In fact, you will be covered from head to foot. The Lord will exile you and your king to a nation unknown to you and your ancestors. There, in exile, you will worship gods of wood and stone. Verse 37, you will become an object of horror, ridicule, and mockery among all the nations to which the Lord sends you. You will plant much, but harvest little, for locusts will eat your crops. You will plant vineyards and care for them, but you will not drink the wine or eat the grapes, for worms will destroy the vines. You will grow olive trees throughout your land, but you will never use the olive oil, for the fruit will drop before it ripens. You will have sons and daughters, but you will lose them, for they will be led away into captivity. Swarms of insects will destroy your trees and crops. The foreigners living among you will become stronger and stronger, while you become weaker and weaker. They will lend money to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, and you will be the tail. If you refuse to listen to the Lord your God, if you refuse to listen to the Lord your God and to obey the commands and decrees he has given you, all these curses will pursue and overtake you until you are destroyed. These horrors will serve as a sign and warning among you and your descendants forever. If you do not serve the Lord your God with joy and enthusiasm for the abundant benefits you have received, you will serve your enemies, whom the Lord will send against you. You will be left hungry, thirsty, naked, and lacking in everything. The Lord will put an iron yoke on your neck, oppressing you harshly until he has destroyed you. The Lord will bring a distant nation against you from the end of the earth, and it will swoop down on you like a vulture. It is a nation whose language you do not understand, a fierce and heartless nation that shows no respect for the old and no pity for the young. Its armies will devour your livestock and crops, and you will be destroyed. They will leave you no grain, new wine, olive oil, calves, or lambs, and you will starve to death. They will attack your cities until all the fortified walls in your land, the walls you trusted to protect you, are knocked down. They will attack all the towns in the land the Lord your God has given you. The siege and terrible distress of the enemy's attack will be so severe that you will eat the flesh of your own sons and daughters, whom the Lord your God has given you. The most tender-hearted man among you will have no compassion for his own brother, his beloved wife, and his surviving children. He will refuse to share with them the flesh he is devouring, the flesh of one of his own children, because he has nothing else to eat during the siege and terrible distress that your enemy will afflict on all your towns. The most tender and delicate woman among you, so delicate she would not so much as touch the ground with her foot, will be selfish towards the husband she loves and toward her own son or daughter. She will hide from them the afterbirth and the new baby she has born, so that she herself can secretly eat them. She will have nothing else to eat during the siege and terrible distress that your enemy will inflict on all your towns. If you refuse to obey all the words of instruction that are written in this book, and if you do not fear the glorious and awesome name of the Lord your God, then the Lord will overwhelm you and your children with indescribable plagues. These plagues will be intense and without relief, making you miserable and unbearably sick. He will afflict you with all the diseases of Egypt that you feared so much, and you will have no relief. The Lord will afflict you with every sickness and plague there is, even those not mentioned in this book of instruction, until you are destroyed. Though you become as numerous as the stars in the sky, few of you will be left, because you would not listen to the Lord your God. Verse 63. Just as the Lord has found great pleasure in causing you to prosper and multiply, the Lord will find pleasure in destroying you. You will be torn from the land that you are about to enter and occupy. For the Lord will scatter you among all the nations, from one end of the earth to the other. There you will worship foreign gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods made of wood and stone. There, among those nations, you will find no peace or place to rest, and the Lord will cause your heart to tremble, your eyesight to fail, and your soul to despair. Your life will constantly hang in the balance. You will live night and day in fear, unsure if you will survive. In the morning you will say, if only it were night. And in the evening you will say, if only it were morning. For you will be terrified by the awful horrors you see around you. Then the Lord will send you back to Egypt in ships, to a destination I promised you would never see again. There you will offer to sell yourselves to your enemies as slaves, but no one will buy you. All right. So if you missed, especially with that last verse, Deuteronomy 28 and 68, especially with that last verse, this translation is it's misleading if you don't have a foundation. All right, it uses these words that will make you second guess what exactly you are reading, as far as no one will buy you, and what else did it say? Hold on a second. There you will offer to sell yourselves to your enemies as slaves, but no one will buy you. So if you want more understanding on that, first of all, you need to go back to the reading before this one, the King James reading that I did, all right? Go to that video and listen to that reading. So I go into more explanation of that last, of Deuteronomy 28:68, all right? Secondly, if you are finding that you need to go back and look at that video, that means you jumped into this out of order. Go back and listen to uh, these previous videos, all right? As a matter of fact, here's a suggestion if you are new to this channel. You can determine how these videos are listed, all right? You can list from old to new, from new to old, most recent first, or the oldest one first, all right? But if you set an alert on a channel, you'll still get alerts for when new videos are posted. But if you're trying to catch up, you can set it from oldest to newest, all right? And go down that way. And I'm not saying you have to do that. That's just a suggestion. If you're missing videos, you can set it from oldest to newest and then hit videos and it'll list them from the oldest to the new. And that'll help you in series, all right? Because we do series videos, like it'll be a part 1, part 2, part 3. So if you list a video, if you have the videos listed from the oldest to the newest, they'll be lined up in that way. But if you do it from newest to oldest, you'll have to scroll up and go to the first video, part 1, and then find part 2, so on and so forth, all right? Also, if you are not new to this knowledge, all right, and I stress, please don't be looking for entertainment when you do this, but go to the community tab on this channel and find those, there's more advanced teachers over there that I reposted their videos. Go and look for those, all right? But please go there to listen, not just to be entertained. Go there with the end goal being learning, all right? Growing in the spirit, which is what you find on this channel. This channel is basic, it's a back to the basics channel, okay? And you are witnessing the truth, of course, because I'm getting these lessons. This is what I'm learning from my teachers, but you are also seeing my progression and my growth in spirit, all right? So I'm trying to grow in these things, which that is the mission, to grow in this, not to stay stagnant, all right? The goal is sooner or later for me to get out there on the highways and hedges and teach and to upload those videos here also, all right? So, yeah, so with that, Lord willing, the next video will be the same reading of Deuteronomy 28th chapter in the Good News translation, or the GNT, all right? So, Lord willing, all right? So with that, like I say, all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And shalom to the other sincere followers of this truth. All right? Shalom.